games can be life-changing, bright spots of joy in our lives, but they can also be painful. Sometimes it's the challenging gameplay that is the source of our suffering. Other times it's an emotionally impactful story that is well written but difficult to digest. And sometimes it's both. Lisa Definitive Edition is here, including enhanced versions of both Lisa the Painful and Lisa the Joyful. This 2014 indie classic RPG is back and more painful than ever. If you already own Lisa the Painful on Steam, put your credit card down and walk away because you'll be able to download this update for free. However, if you're anything like me and you missed out on this title the first time around, now is the perfect opportunity to strike. If you're not familiar with the Lisa games, let me give you a rudimentary rundown. Following a catastrophic event called the White Flash, no, not the DC movie with anger issues McGee, a different catastrophic White Flash, it appears that all women have been eliminated from the face of the planet, basically a death sentence for mankind. If you think this sounds rough, now is a good time for me to warn you that this game is not for you. While it is well written and highly entertaining at times, the game deals with some dark and very heavy subject matter, and you'll have to make some incredibly difficult, life-altering decisions along the journey. Certainly not for the faint of heart. Now that we got that out of the way, for the majority of gameplay you'll control Brad Armstrong, a man who has lived a deeply troubled life. While traversing the post-apocalyptic wasteland that is Olathe, Brad discovers a lost infant that just may be the hope humanity so desperately needs. With his newfound purpose, Brad attempts to defend his new buddy at any cost, which proves to be a deeply painful undertaking, especially with how far mankind has fallen into depravity. With mind-numbing drugs and volatile gangs, there is no easy mode in this world, but there is an easy mode in the game, which is great. I'll leave my plot synopsis there to both remain clear of spoiler territory and avoid boring those that have already played through this saga, but trust me when I say there is a healthy dose of dark humor and trauma built into the writing that will make this one stick in my mind for a long time to come. So what exactly makes the definitive edition definitive? Well, hold on to your ponchos, because there have been a whole lot of tweaks, additional content, and improvements that will take your experience with Lisa to the next level. The first thing you'll notice are the graphical improvements. Lisa Definitive Edition features updated HD graphics and 120 FPS mode, which makes the pixel art really pop. You'll get additional thematically appropriate border art that changes quite frequently based on the in-game setting, but that's not all. There are also additional boss fights, more dialogue, side quests, more endings, and most importantly, more campfire conversations with Nern. If you know, you know. And your other in-game companions as well. When it comes to gameplay, there are a few difficulty modes Lisa can be played in. You have your standard default difficulty, which is how I opted to experience the game. A challenging experience, but not a frustrating one. You can also play the game in painful mode for an even more relentlessly difficult experience, and one that results in different in-game events. Then there is the painless mode, that easy mode I alluded to earlier, for those that want the experience of the story without all of the suffering, or at least with less of it. Regardless of which mode you choose, Lisa plays like a pretty standard RPG. You'll encounter countless enemies and take them out with turn-based combat. There's a diverse cast of characters that you'll be able to recruit to your party, weapons and wearables to collect and equip, as well as healing and not so healing consumables. Each member of your party plays a little bit differently, with some characters being more defense focused, others being more weapon based, and others still needing a few drinks before battle to get their head in the game. It's both highly entertaining and adds an element of strategy when it comes to choosing your party, as you'll want to make sure your team is well balanced enough to take on even the most intimidating abominations. Like most RPGs, there is an in-game currency. This this time in the form of dirty magazines, and I mean dirty in every sense of the word. Need I remind you, this is a world without women. There are intermittent checkpoints to save your progress and camps to rest your crew. This is the type of game, unless you're using a walkthrough or you've played it 1,000 times and don't need a walkthrough, you will see a game over screen, and another one, and another one. You will learn from your mistakes which paths to take, and which enemies you can take out, which ones you should probably try to run from, which secrets are worth sacrificing some health for, and which ones will end up coming back to bite you in the ass. There's so much to take in here that, quite simply, you could not encapsulate it in a single playthrough. And I think that's a good thing. Platforming is clunky, but I can't complain too much since it's not usually the focal point of the game. Brad moves slowly, which is eventually remedied by a bicycle that allows him to go X Games mode, or at least a bit faster than his standard stubby jaunt. Combat is fast and involved, or as much as a turn-based combat can be those things. Varying inputs, managing different health and status bars, enemy weaknesses to be discovered and exploited, and picking the right party made for a fun but challenging experience. And the off-the-wall dialogue kept me dialed into each and every word this game threw my way, even if I didn't want to be sometimes. As I mentioned before, the refreshed art is fantastic. It truly is like the original, but better, which is the theme of this release in general. Colors are sharp and vibrant, the pixel art is stylized, grotesque, and gorgeous. It took me a few scenes to adjust to the border art, but I appreciated each new setting just as much as the last, and I didn't find it detracting from my attention to the story in the slightest. Definitive Edition additions don't just stop at the visuals and story though. There are also some kick-ass new tracks added to this version of the game, as well as a jukebox where you can listen to all of the Nightmarish soundtrack to your heart's content. And I say that with love. I actually really dug these weird little compositions. It's the killer thumping bass that stood out to me the most throughout gameplay, with some highly inventive tunes. Overall, Lisa Definitive Edition takes what made Lisa so memorable and enhances it with exceptional audio and visual quality, additional story and content, more difficulty options, and so much more. This is absolutely not a game for everyone. This story is a tough sell on the surface, but the experience is one that will stick with you for years to come. Dingaling Productions does grotesque and gritty well. They set a tone and they stuck with it, doubling down on it with these enhancements. A must play for fans of the original or those that are ready to give it a go for the first time.